Well, it's nice to finally have a controversy-free day.
I feel like you're being sarcastic.
Me? That would hurt if it wasn't so true.
Oh, let me shut that door.
Okay. One of the perils of using an RSS reader is that every once in a while, one of the news sources will just like regurgitate everything they've ever posted.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at it's like all of a sudden you have like 124 updates. And you're like, what? And it's just a bunch of crap going back like 3 years. It's been happening to me all day. From Google has just obviously hit reset on something.
Maybe they're morals. That would be nice.
But no.
Oh, great. Todd already said the sound level is good. See, people.
Oh, good. Let me screw it up.
Yeah, let me go tweak something. Things are going too well.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed my
Open
day.
the box, yes. Just throw a magnet inside there and see what happens. Good Lord. It just makes my RSS reader useless.
They came for my mixer, and I said nothing.
Nice.
I've been holding that one in. I was gonna tweet that out initially. I was like, maybe a little insensitive, whatever. So I'll just do it live on a podcast instead of thousands of people.
Yep.
So, news du jour, at a prompt 9:15 a.m. or whatever this morning. Microsoft announced, for those who aren't familiar with the insensitive joke I just cracked, is that they are shutting down all of their retail stores, all of them. Donezo. They're not coming back.
If a tree falls in a mall,
God.
what are the chances of it hitting a Microsoft store?
Oof. That's a good question. The timing. I mean, I on one hand, we'll say this hand, I understand the timing because it's the end of the fiscal year. It's the end of the fiscal year. That's when Microsoft makes changes, and so I understand on this hand why they did it now. Now on this hand, I don't understand why they did it now. Because first off, Microsoft is taking a $405 million charge this quarter to shut all this stuff down. I'm assuming that most of that is probably related to rent and lease agreements that they're going to be paying out and all that good stuff. Anyways, the point aside is that this fall they're going to be launching a brand new Xbox, which is a great thing to show off there. And they've also got the Surface Duo that is, again, primarily a consumer-focused device coming.
Yeah.
I understand the stores didn't get a lot of foot traffic, but would it have killed them to just say like, okay, we'll do it December 31st?
Well, so the thing we don't know is how much money these stores lost. I think it's fair to say they weren't making money to begin with, and I'm sure COVID didn't help. And you could make I'm just playing devil's advocate because you kind of presented it that way, but you can make the argument that maybe the losses from the stores would have been worse than the gains they would have made from the hardware sales.
That's a very valid point. If 6 months additional runtime would have cost them $500 million,
it would have just wiped out all the profits they could have made. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. No one really knows the math, but yeah, I gotta say, they communicated this poorly in the sense that the LinkedIn post was kind of poorly worded. It turns out there was an actual Microsoft. It wasn't really a press release, but like a news.microsoft.com post, I guess we'll call it a blog post. It was a little clearer, but I do buy that most of their sales are digital/electronic.
Sure.
We've been to Microsoft stores. You can joke all you want about foot traffic and all this stuff. I mean, I've been to Microsoft stores that have been full of people, but I'm sure 3:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday, it's full of high school students who are playing Xbox. It's like most of these people aren't buying anything. I agree. It's a tough thing not to have a showcase.
And now people, the counter argument that is, well, there's a Best Buy, and you're not wrong. There absolutely is a Best Buy.
I mean, have you seen one of these shitholes? Yeah, there is a Best Buy, but
that's not where I was
talk
going
like the PC department's got like cobwebs. I always joke about how like one time I was in there and I watched a wolf drag a small child away. Like they're terrible. But okay, fair enough. I mean,
but there's also Sony there too. The Microsoft store, like if you were in a mall, you're only going to see Xbox in there. You're not going to see Sony, and it was their place to make their stuff shine, and that's not
fair enough.
There.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is what it is. So that's too bad. Look, but the other thing is, like, it's not like they all went all in, right? Mm-hmm. Apple is all over the world. I know Microsoft and Apple are not the same kind of company. Apple's consumer-based. Microsoft is really business-based, except for Xbox. It's still not the same audience. They were never going to have the same number of stores, never going to have the same amount of appeal. We have this issue. I know it's not unique to Microsoft, but we certainly feel it in the Microsoft space, where they underserve their international customers, either with language support in various apps or capabilities in certain apps, and with the stores as well, right? I mean, however many Microsoft stores there were, 90-something% of them were in North America, and there was one in London, one in Sydney, one whatever it was. You're either going to do this thing or you're not, and I'm sure at some point, they originally thought they were going to go all in, but I'm sure as the time, they discovered these things weren't paying off.
Yeah, well, what you got to remember too, when they started to ramp up the scale of it, is right when they were launching mobile phones. They had tablets, they had PCs, they had Xboxes, they had all this stuff. They had bands, they had Zune, they had a full suite of consumer products and services. And over the years, each one has just kind of slowly just been chopped off. And now that's all that's left is Surface, which again is only 50% roughly consumer, and then Xbox is definitely 100% consumer.
Plus, I mean, the most important product of all, I think we're forgetting about, is the Surface Pen Loop. I mean, where can I go to find a pen loop? Where, Brad?
Trying not to make jokes. Trying to be.
It's the only way to deal with this kind of stuff.
What
are you going to do? It just, I don't know. I've been in standing outside of a Microsoft store in Bellevue, which is a particularly busy one because of its proximity to Microsoft. Mm-hmm. In the Christmas time, with all the Bellevue's all lit up with lights and everything, and lots and lots of people going in and out of the store. But I still looked at it and thought, man, like, this thing can't be making money. It can't. Retail space is so expensive. Retail is going to be changed forever because of what just happened, for one thing. And I just, it's completely understandable. The timing, weird, the way it kind of went down, or whatever. I'm sure there were reasons, but yeah, that's too bad. What are you going to do?
The one good thing is, at least based on their announcements, and this, I guess, isn't all that surprising because they've already moved to this model, is that nobody's losing their job over this, at least over directly from Microsoft. These people had the opportunity. I'm sure there are some that aren't going to work out, but at least Microsoft, I believe they're basically going to become customer service representatives, triaging things like that.
Support for customers.
Yep. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, they are going to keep open for customer experience centers. This is not retail stores. The Microsoft store in New York, by the way, is going to be transformed into one of these things.
Yeah.
And that leads open the possibility that we could do podcasts from there in the future, or have briefings there. Like you and I, it was
we've done it a couple times.
Surface Go, I think it was the last one we did at that location. And I expect that stuff to continue. One in London, one in Sydney, and one at the Redmond campus. But, Amazon this past year has been looking for like a second headquarters. Microsoft has field offices all over the country and probably around the world. And no, definitely, I know they do around the world. But these customer experience centers gives them like an executive briefing center type experience like they have on campus, but it puts it in different places, important big cities. Good for customer training and, whatever. And so that to me makes sense. It's too bad. Like, what do you do now? Like, it's not like you gotta get Microsoft could have a store within a store, in Best Buy, like Apple still kind of does, I think.
Yeah, Microsoft does a little bit. I mean, they have, it's not as pronounced.
Maybe they need to do more. Maybe that's something those employees could be doing. some of what they could be doing. In their local area, maybe they could maintain a little spot like that in a Best Buy.
Mm-hmm.
Because, depending on the location, Best Buy can range from okay to off the charts terrible, especially the PC section.
Yeah. My local store's not too bad. So not that I haven't been there in a while other than to return some AirPods, but or AirPod Pros. Or whatever.
Ours is okay too. I think we had my daughter's stereo installed there a couple of years ago. I don't know.
Something I've not done in a while is swapped a stereo in a car. I used to, back when they were the DINs or whatever. They kind of got away from that. Like you DIN and then double DIN, and you could just basically pull them out, swap the connectors, push it back in.
Well, they have amazing kits for those kinds of things. So in my daughter's car, which is an older Mercedes, it doesn't look like a stock part. It's a third-party stereo, but the surround that it sits within looks exactly like the car. It's nice. Like you wouldn't look at it and think, oh my God, what a hack job. Like it's nice, and that stuff's it's available for every car basically.
That I did not know. I haven't done that in a while. There was also some more. I mean, this is just kind of sprinkling more things on top of the Lockhart that we already knew. Somebody else was able to.
Brad, I'm sorry. You still beating this dead horse? I thought I made it clear yesterday.
So what they did was they were able to open up the latest download or latest update that came to the Xbox One X, and there were more references to it in there. So
there were more references to this mythological Loch Ness-like monster type thing you keep talking about for some reason.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I hope they don't launch it just so people.
So it's just so everyone can go to town on you on Twitter.
Yeah, just to be.
Brad Sams, comma liar. No wonder you work with Thurrott. That UWP hating it bastard. Yep, that's what we are.
Yeah, the important thing is that you're transparent and you're.
Yes, sure, yeah. Yep. It's important to be honest about yourself.
Yeah. So, anyways, that is. I can't believe that June is over. By the way, either this has been simultaneously the fastest month in a while and also the longest. So.
Yep, I don't have anything to add to that other than we normally have a work meeting that next week isn't happening because of the holiday weekend, and it was like, wait, what?
What holiday?
What holiday? Oh, that independence thing that's so huge every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, my state went into the green zone today, Brad. Meaning something. I mean, more stuff is open. So we can have. Well, by the way, green doesn't mean everything.
It did something.
Well, I mean, I could go get a haircut now at a regular place. I could go to a restaurant and eat inside with limited capacity.
There's a great.
Those things.
There's a great. This is he's an older joke, but from Ron White, back when they had like the alert system, it's like right after 9/11, they had like yellow to orange, or like it was like green to red or whatever.
Yeah, it's like the SARS threat alert or whatever.
Yeah. And he had a great bit about how his mother didn't know what to do when it went from yellow to orange, and that they should rename it from "Find a Helmet" to "Put on a Helmet." Like that's
yes. So yeah, I'm confused because green to me means go.
Yeah.
And go suggests the entire economy is open. You can go do whatever you want.
We'll go anywhere but south, I think is the.
Well, I know, or 2 miles east of here too. But it's like people are going to misunderstand what this means. It's going to lead to some conflict for sure.
Two other things, not to circle too far back on the Apple stuff, but one of the things. So they finally let us change, or going to let us change the email and the browser.
But and I should say, by the way, that's not in there right now. So it's not in the beta.
You know what you can't change though? That's really annoying. Maps.
Yeah, right. Because God, they don't want to open that little can of worms. Because if they ever did that, I mean, everyone talks about how great Apple Maps is, and I get it. There's no doubt it's way better than it used to be. It's pretty looking too. It's a nice looking app.
They've done a good job, but the problem is it's still not the best.
The problem is there's a but in every one of those sentences, and that but is I would still use Google Maps if I could. I mean, you can, of course, you can run the app, but Yep.
So that's one little thing that they are still holding out on. So Apple has not really turned over a new leaf. They just realized that, hey, we don't really need the data from people's email apps, and browser usage is great, but they're still using our underlying technology because you can't actually build your own browser on iOS. You have to use their whatever. So
whatever. From the perspective of any user, it's still a step in the right direction. So
it is.
We'll take it. Maybe next year they'll do maps and assistance or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And then the other one is that the former Apple engineer or whatever said that they started plotting their move away from Intel back when Skylake occurred. And that seems believable.
So actually, what he said is an Intel engineer. He said that this effort had been going on before that. The Skylake thing was basically the impetus to like, we got to get this thing moving. Like, we can't trust these guys anymore. And, you know, I mean, from all the conversations I had with Terry Myerson and others at Microsoft around Skylake and the impact that had on Surface and them. And then I talked to PC makers, which was kind of comical because they viewed Microsoft's response to this as being incredibly immature. You kind of get a fuller picture of what happened there. And look, as it turns out, all Intel, all chipsets come out the door buggy to some degree, and there are software fixes for that stuff. But Skylake was apparently notably buggy.
Was it?
That's how I remember it. Yeah. I don't know. It probably wasn't a big story, but I would say, but the flip side of that is there weren't a lot of stories about Lenovo or HP or Dell having problems with this, right? Those guys shipped Skylake PCs, no problems. I mean, they probably had to do a bunch of work, you know. But that was the big Microsoft and Microsoft and Intel got into a huge fight over that, and people might forget this, but Microsoft, this is Terry Bispian. Terry was such a bitter. He could be really bitter when things went south. He announced that Microsoft wasn't going to support Windows 7 on older or Windows 10 on older Intel chipsets. That was because of Skylake, because like Intel had come to them and said, "No, this is your responsibility. You have to fix this." And they were like, "No, you got to help us." And they were like, "No." They're like, "All right, well now we're not going to support it." Like you can go find it. It's an announcement about legacy silicon or however they described it, and it was just an FU to Intel. That's all it was. It was them lashing out publicly because someone had stolen the baby's candy or whatever, and they were just responding in kind. You know, it's just beautiful to watch corporations behave like this. It's like the Amazon thing with Microsoft and the DOJ over the Jedi contract is just like this. It's like Godzilla and King Kong, kind of grappling with each other. It's beautiful. It's just beautiful.
It is, and I don't think we're going to see the end of that anytime soon, especially in the corporate space is getting heated up too. There was an acquisition, Amazon, which I'm sure this won't get reviewed at all. Bought do you pronounce it Zoox? It's a Zoox. Self-driving.
Yes. We've run out of combinations of letters for our names.
Yeah.
.com.
No, you joke, but I always wonder, like, so you're starting up a company and you need a domain, and you can't have like your sweet startup at like dot whatever dumb thing. Like, it's got to be like a .com. And so like I always think when you see like, oh, young company raises $73 million. Well, about 40 of that's probably going to the .com name.
Exactly. Like, paying for some squatted domain, it's like, no, I'm sure that's true. But there's going to be a lot of consolidation. Amazon, Microsoft, Google are going to be, are circling each other now for that, and they're all buying up AI companies and all kinds of all that stuff. And it's a good time to be a startup, I would say. If you have some kind of
potentially, I guess, as long as you have cash flow, like because people are going shopping and they're not paying a premium, I don't think, for a lot of this stuff.
No, it'd be a nice little COVID bailout. If you get someone to buy your company in the middle of 2020, you're doing pretty good.
Well, yeah, that's like exactly like what it was reported for that. I think, was Zoox public? I can't remember. I don't think so.
I never even heard of this company.
No, they got $1 billion though, so that's but $1 billion to Amazon, I guess, isn't really anything. That's just a rounding error.
They're not really known for making acquisitions, Yeah. Apple was like this for a long time too. I mean, Apple to this day hasn't made any huge acquisitions. I mean, I think Beats might be one of the bigger ones. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so. They didn't they acquire Siri? Like that was
that was an acquisition. But I mean, a lot of those things are just small companies.
Yeah,
a couple of guys basically.
Yeah, they're not out there going and buying like GoToMeeting or something like that.
Or right.
They could. I mean, they've got a lot of money.
Probably buy Zoom too if they wanted.
There was an interesting comment in the chat room as I was just kind of scrolling back through here. I think it was Wonder Boy, I think is who wrote it. But when it comes to like laptop and consumer space, Apple has a ton of potential for growth, whereas like everybody else kind of just tries to maintain the status quo. Like you think about it, what's the market share for Mac OS? It's like 10% or something.
6.8.
Yeah, 6.8. So they've got
I know, but what percentage of the profits do they have in the industry? It technically might be 100% in the sense that some companies are just losing money. You know, Most companies probably. So I don't know. You have, geez, I don't know. Is HP's premium PC business as big as the MacBook? Probably not.
Probably not.
But yeah, so obviously this week's news has triggered a bunch of questions and speculation. I've got a humongous Ask Paul article I'm going to be putting out soon that has a lot of questions about the stuff. Some interesting speculation, or people wondering, will this lead to more Microsoft partnering on unique chipset designs for their computers? I would say probably yes, although they were kind of already going down that path. What does this mean for Windows on Mac? Right, I think it's effectively over, frankly.
Yeah.
Than virtualization. But,
you're going to get Parallels probably trying to do some stuff and whatnot. But
the problem with that is going to be you're running what will at that time be a native Parallels application on ARM, virtualizing an Intel version of Windows. Right. One of the advantages
I'm sure it'll run fine.
Well, I mean, Linux guys will probably start compiling to different kinds of ARM. But the thing people kind of forget, though, is Apple Silicon, it's ARM. Windows 10 on ARM is not ARM. It's Windows 10 on Qualcomm. It's very specific to that set of chipsets. They would have to port that to make it work on other ARM silicon.
I mean, that's the nature of ARM. It's not x86. Yeah,
it's not one thing. It's not. Right. There's no such thing as like one, compatibility for everybody. So, those virtualization solutions on Apple, on Mac going forward are going to be a little tricky because you're going to probably be emulating x86 or maybe some other flavor of ARM,
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The biggest thing for me that I'm going to be watching is the price point of this new stuff.
Was one of the questions. Let me pose this question to you. The cheapest Mac you can buy new today is a Mac Mini. It's an i3 based system. It's $799. The cheapest portable Mac you can buy today new is a MacBook Air. It's a Y series i3, so it's even worse, but it's $999. So how much as a percentage cost of the total system, how much could Apple save by not paying Intel? There's a cost to developing their chips, but let's say it's X percent less. Is it 20%? Is it 25%? All right, let's just pretend it is 20,
that's
20
a
25,
good question.
somewhere in there. All right, but we have to guess. So we have to guess. Is Apple going to reduce the cost of their computers by 20 to 25%? I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But
I don't think so, right? Yeah. So let's say they do. So now you can get a MacBook Air running whatever A series, blah, 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 whatever it is. Otherwise, the same specs as what we have today. And it starts at $800. And then a Mac Mini would start at whatever that works out to be, $575 or whatever. So $550, $575. Those are good prices, right? Those are good prices for those computers, no doubt about it. Those are really good price. Actually, the MacBook Air in particular would be a really good price. But is that enough to, double Mac's market share? Do they go from 7 to 14%?
So here's my prediction from a kind of like a business analyst point of view, which somebody inside of Apple, I guarantee, is doing. They're looking at what their typical margin is on a MacBook Air. Let's just use a nice easy number and say it's $100. They make $100 net income every single time a MacBook Air is sold. And now they're going to put their own chip in there, and they're going to figure out, well, we'll make $150 per MacBook Air sold
at the same price.
So
if they sell it for the same price.
So I think this will play out in a couple ways. First thing Apple has to do, and more important than price, is prove the performance. Right? They have to prove.
But let's assume it literally is 100%.
Yeah.
MacBook Air to MacBook Air. Let's assume it's 100%. They did it.
Yep. There will eventually become a time where Apple, and they have a history of doing this with the iPhone, where they will take that price point and it'll slowly trickle down into lower price points, but they don't want to upset. They're going to come out with a product and say, look, this is a premium experience, a premium performance. A couple years from now, you'll be able to buy the effective i3 version of an A series chip. It's still going to be better than what Intel's offering, but they're going to only they're going to make $115. And so their margins overall from a shareholder perspective are still increasing.
So you've kind of arrived at the same thing from a different direction, but I think you're right. So, although, again, the thing is, there is one precedent that speaks loudly here, which is the iPad was losing sales year over year for 6 years straight, and they finally lowered the price. You can buy a wonderful iPad today for $329. It's a great price. And all of a sudden,
let me ask you this, though.
They skyrocketed.
From a parts perspective, from an internal guts perspective, how different is that iPad Air or whatever for $399 from a laptop? It's not much. I mean, it's got a screen, it's got RAM, it's got the display. Only thing it's missing is effectively a keyboard that's not attached in a clamshell. And how much can that parts and materials be?
There's a iPad that's $329. There's an iPad Pro that's $999.
Yeah.
And how different are those things internally? I mean, you could make the case not that different. But
I bet they're also cleaning up on margin on that iPad Pro too.
Yeah, for sure. So but what you said earlier rings true to me. Like, so you're Apple and you're like, hey, we reduced the component parts of this thing by $50. So that means instead of making 100, if we sell it for the same price, we're going to make 150. That's like a 50% improvement in profits. And I'm sure the response at that time is good. Let's talk about how great the performance is and keep the price the same, and it will still seem like a benefit. Yep. And people will write reviews and be like, "My God, what a bargain this thing is!" It's like
same price, better performance.
Yep. Yeah, but I also agree with you because Apple does do this very quietly over time. Will drop prices, and even with the MacBook Air, when I bought the last one I had, it was started at $1,200. The new one's there at $1,000. So they've actually dropped the price by $200. The base storage has gone up. I don't know if the base RAM is probably the same, but the product itself has actually improved. The chip that's in that thing is much better than the chip they were selling 2 years ago. So I think it's unlikely we're going to see bargain basement.
Not right away. This is
but over time, I bet the prices come down. Yeah.
It does, because everybody knows that you sell a product, for the iPad being a perfect example. Apple probably has the metrics there that says, hey, look, if we knock $50 off of this, it puts us into X category and we can sell Y more, like the letter Y as a variable, not WHY, Y more machines per month or per quarter. So
yep.
It'll be interesting.
Dude, we are still talking about this on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's amazing about this. And I there are people out there who, read Thurrott.com or whatever, and I can't stand Apple, and I completely understand it. And I know it's probably infuriating how much we're still writing about it, days later. But this has really upended things. Like it's even though we knew it was coming, it's now we're faced with this new reality. Very curious to see where the world goes, and. I don't know. We'll find out. We're going to get more information soon. The developer kits will go out. I'm sure we'll have either communications that are okayed by Apple or just leaked or whatever. But we're going to find out, and that's going to be a real proof point. What that stuff looks like.
Yep. And we will find out here not too far off.
Yep.
So. Yep.
Yeah. So I've been using the Mac for the past couple of days. I've been doing Xcode stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The developer stuff is still fucking lousy. Even the new stuff, which is way improved, is laughably stupid. Like it's awful. So there's that. but God, it's God, you would love this thing, dude. I'm telling you, it's beautiful. Like the system is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
The operating system is really
I've wondered
nice.
too. So, let's imagine Microsoft did nothing for the next 18 months. Nothing but bug fixes and just finishing the UI. Would anybody complain?
I would cheer them if they would do that. Look, they have a 2-year timeline now for this ARM thing. How about fix ARM, 64-bit apps, drivers, figure that out, clean up the Windows 10 UI. That's all you need to do. Just do that. They'll never do that.
No, they won't. They won't.
I would cheer that.
I think everybody would. So, all right. I will catch you later. See you we have Monday. Yeah, Monday's a normal day.
Yep.
All right. Later.